Greetings everyone, Mike here with Sci-Fi and more, and welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, welcome to our Sci-Fi family. Well, there is some exciting news out there in the Star Trek world. There is a new Star Trek short film celebrating the 30th anniversary of Star Trek Generations. William Shatner's Captain Kirk returns for this epic short. William Shatner, as we all know, originally played Captain Kirk in the 1960s series, and then went on to do 6 feature films with the original series cast, with his last appearance being in 1994 in the film Generations, which transitioned the series from the original cast to the Next Generation cast. 30 years after Captain Kirk's controversial death in Star Trek Generations, he returns in this short film, which is accurately titled 765-874 Unification. The film was created by OTOY, which features Leonard Nimoy's Spock, Robin Curtis's Savick, and Gary Lockwood as Gary Mitchell, with digital prosthetics being used on actors like Sam Witwer and Lawrence Selleck to recreate Kirk and Spock for this short film. The short was directed by Carlos Baena with a story by Jules Urbach featuring music by Oscar-nominated composer Michael Giacchino. Unification provides closure for Star Trek fans by celebrating the 30th anniversary of Star Trek Generations and offering a what could have been scenario involving Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock. The 10-minute film blends live action and CGI elements and features a sequence where Kirk journeys through the Nexus. William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy's widow, Susan Bay, served as producers for this film, which was released by the Roddenberry Archive and OTOY. Kirk, as he looked in Generations, begins a journey across what could be the Nexus, or a reality created by Gary Mitchell, since his godlike character is featured in this film. Not completely sure on that one, but this journey will eventually not only reunite Kirk with 2 younger versions of himself, Kirk from the original series and Admiral Kirk from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, but also reunite him with Spock on New Vulcan following the events of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek films and into the Kelvin universe. The short film is loaded with Easter eggs that I'm sure Star Trek fans are just really going to appreciate. I know I did. Notably, it features a cameo by Gary Mitchell, who was Kirk's best friend in the original series' second pilot. Additionally, Captain Kirk encounters Lieutenant Savick, portrayed once again by Robin Curtis from Star Trek III: The Search for Spock and Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. Curtis had famously taken over the role from Kirstie Alley, who originally played the half-Vulcan, half-Romulan character in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Alongside Savick, Captain Kirk finds another familiar face in Sorak. The film touches on a long-standing fan theory and debate stemming from an early draft of Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, in that Savick stayed on Vulcan in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home because she was pregnant with Spock's child. This notion, though not part of the final film, has been a topic of discussion among Star Trek fans for years. In the short film, it is implied that Sorak is the adult son of Spock and Savick, addressing this fan theory in a very intriguing way. Seeing Captain Kirk reunite with Mr. Spock on his deathbed, not to mention seeing Savick nearby in the final moments, that alone is worth watching Unification for. However, it will interest fans to know that Gary Lockwood, at 87 years of age, reprised his original role of Gary Mitchell for this short film. Unification received a sneak preview on Saturday, November 17th, while William Shatner was busy in Ticonderoga, New York, on the Star Trek tour at the Star Trek Set Museum. During his trip, the former captain of the Starship Enterprise discussed the revolution in AI technology and how it allowed for his version of the character to appear in Unification. As far as actually reprising the role of Captain Kirk in a live-action vehicle, Shatner is certainly open to the possibility of returning to the beloved Star Trek franchise, provided it's not as a cameo-only appearance. This is something that the actor had mentioned during an interview back in May with Global News while promoting his documentary, You Can Call Me Bill. There's some fascinating connections to the whole gambit of Star Trek lore here from OTOY and the Roddenberry Archive's previous use of Mahai Tahissa as Yeoman Colt from the original pilot The Cage, all the way up to the inclusion of Yor, a Betelgeusian Starfleet officer from the Kelvin timeline who briefly appeared during the events of Star Trek Discovery Season 3. I really like what OTOY and the Roddenberry Archives are doing. It's like they have their own little storyline going on, but it connects everything very well, and they seem to flawlessly tie stories together by crossing over from the Prime timeline and into the Kelvin timeline. Last year, when OTOY released Regeneration, it felt like OTOY was leaning into the Shatnerverse Star Trek novels, which did see the return of Captain Kirk after the events of 1994's Star Trek Generations. With the release of 765874 Unification, the short film really gives Kirk and Spock alike one last shared farewell. Unification is the latest in a series of shorts produced by OTOY and the Roddenberry Archive under the banner 765874, which is titled for the Starfleet serial number given to Yeoman Colt in previous Trek material. Previous shorts have paid homage to The Cage and Star Trek The Motion Picture, while last year, around the conclusion of Star Trek Picard's final season, there was Regeneration, which took a bittersweet look back at the recovery of the Enterprise D's saucer section and Kirk's comm badge after his death and after the events of Generations. Now, with the release of Unification, it would seem like OTOY and the Roddenberry Archive could be finished mining this particular moment in Star Trek history. But we'll just have to wait and see what kind of theatrical wizardry we get next. The Enterprise D met her end, the Star Trek movie franchise was passed on to the next generation, and William Shatner's Captain Kirk gave it all to save the Viridian system from the sinister Dr. Soren. And now, to celebrate, the Roddenberry Archive has once again teamed up with OTOY to create a fitting, fond farewell to not one, but two of Trek's original heroes. I've included links below for the Roddenberry Archive and for OTOY down in the description. Check out all the Star Trek videos they've got compiled there. They've got a few at this point, and they are just fantastic. And I've attached the latest OTOY entry here if you haven't seen it yet. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoy the OTOY and Roddenberry Archive video Unification. Have a great galactic day, and we'll see you in the next one.
There are always possibilities, Spock said. And if Genesis is indeed life from death, I must return to this place again.